Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I got 16 Glitch in the Matrix stories for you. Let's hit it. Case file number 2023, written by Mopar68. Unseen by most, but we knew their host. 1984, State Street, Madison, Wisconsin. Bar hopping between classes, daytime encounter. Saw two very tall people, men and women, one block up on the corner, dressed in white with white hair. Looked like aliens from space, literally. I walked past them and ignored them at first, but kept an eye on them from across the street. I ducked into a restaurant and spied on them, and watched as they went into a sporting store. They never came out after 30 minutes, so I went over and looked for them. They had just disappeared. When I came back out of the store, they were across the street. Now they're looking right at me and following me for 2 blocks. I got spooked and went into a bar and went out on the back door and headed back to my apartment. Stayed home for the rest of the day. Peeked out of the window sometimes, which faces the back towards the lake, and sure enough, they were outside, walking around like hounds looking for my scent. 2 weeks later, I was at school in the main dining hall, bumped into one of my friends who looked paranoid. I invited him over and we relaxed. He told me this weird story of these 2 really tall white people following him because he had noticed them around the same time I had my encounter. Strange part is nobody else really noticed them. They looked so out of place. They were all dressed in white and their skin was the same color. Just spooky. Case file number 2024, written by Parkity Park Park. Late goals, lurking souls. When I was like 10 to 13, I was in a soccer league. And one day, for some reason, we were having practice really late, and it was already dark out. The field we were practicing on that day was also right next to a heavily wooded area on 2 sides. At one point, our coach tells me and a girl on the team to go to the end. It was right by the wooded area, and we were to practice defending. And about at the same time, she notices something over in the woods. She said later she couldn't make it out clearly, but it was something decent sized on 4 legs, and she assumed it was a deer and it would just run off. As we got further away though, she kept watching it. It started creeping closer as we walked closer to it, and eventually it stood up on 2 legs. She immediately screamed at us to run back right now, which we did, and it ran off. Practice ended right there, and we didn't have any more late practices. The other one that comes to mind is a series of recurring nightmares I had as a little kid. There was this dude I called the man made out of wood, who looked like the stick bug from A Bug's Life, but a little creepier and with 2 heads. Nobody knew where these nightmares came from, myself included, especially considering I loved the stick bug guy from Bug's Life. It would be an ordinary dream, and then someone would either vomit or find vomit on the ground, which seemed to be a sign he was coming. Right after he would show up and kidnap me, and that's always where the dream would end. This went on for a rather long time. Then I eventually learned how to control my dreams, just a little bit, and after one dream, where I was forced to change it so I could get away, I never saw him again. Fast forward about 15 years. I'm visiting this nice older couple, the wife being from Austria, if I remember right, on Halloween. She's very Austrian at heart and loves to decorate, cook, and everything in her favorite traditions. Well, I walk in, and hanging right in front of the door is this life-size figure. It was the man made out of wood, down to the last detail. I think I asked about it, but I don't remember what they said. But either way, it still creeps me out. Case file number 2025, written by Sally McCuckoo. Mud, Posts, and Video Boasts. So, country lane, driving along at around 50 to 60 miles per hour, which is standard for a country lane, or 90 if you're Ed Sheeran. If you don't know about UK country roads, they are no wider than a single car in some cases, ditches on either side, and usually have posts to stop you veering off track. Also, most country roads don't have lights either. Picture the scene: driving at speed, going around a corner to be presented with the tractor coming the opposite direction, covering the entire road. UK tractors are huge. My friend said there was very little time to realize, but both the tractor driver and my friend looked, swerved, and carried on. My friend, shaken, stopped at the next junction, thinking, how the hell did I not get hit? Not veer off into a post? And what about the ditch? Why am I not in a ditch? Comes back into the office, visibly shaken, white as a ghost and eager to plug in the dashcam into their PC to see how they managed to still be alive. Plus we all wanted to see. Here's the bit which none of us can explain. The dash cam shows footage up to the corner, you see the tractor, then nothing. Completely blank screen, no sound, no picture. Around 5 seconds of blank screen. No sound. And then the video and sound again showing the clear road ahead, followed by them stopping at the junction. Audio picks up, my friend swearing like, how the frick, and fricking hell. You can imagine the chaos. We all sit there, going back and forth, thinking there has to be an error, or perhaps we picked up the wrong file. Anything to explain what we were and were not seeing. My friend decides to go back down the lane with me in the passenger seat, to see if perhaps she went into a bank of earth or perhaps a passing point. I had a copy of the video dashcam on my phone, just so we know the exact spot she supposedly passed the tractor. We get there, and no bullcrap. There is nowhere that neither the tractor nor my friend could have gone. They should have either crashed into each other, or my friend should be upside down in a ditch in her car. So we figured, let's try and trace the tractor to a farm, just going by what little dashcam footage we had. We checked around for farms, found 1 or 2, and yes, we also found the tractor. Spoke to the farmer, and I crap you not, he said, the tractor hadn't been out that day, as the driver for that vehicle was off with sickness. Case file number 2026, written by Ordinary Mango 569. Park's history is the key to this mystery. In early 2020, I was working as an office manager, and we had a suggestion box that was affixed to the wall of the office. It was actually for employees to leave suggestions internally. We had the box, lock and key, custom made for the company. Shortly before the virus hit in March 2020, I went to collect the suggestions from the suggestion box, and I realized the key was missing. I was the only person with access to where the key was stored, as it was locked up by itself. Technically, my boss could have also retrieved it, but he would have no reason to, and he confirmed it wasn't him. I was going to order a new key to be made, but a few days later, the virus hit, and I got laid off. So I just didn't think about the key again. While I was still laid off, I was walking my dog in a park we had never been to before. During the time I was laid off, we explored a bunch of new trails and parks in our area. While we were walking, something caught his attention in the grass, and when I looked to see what it was the key from the suggestion box from my old job. Like what? Freaked out and confused, I picked it up and put it in my pocket, hoping to convince myself of a rational explanation. The main reason I knew it was the same key is because it had a yellow plastic tag on it, where I had hand-printed what the key was for, and that yellow tag was still attached. I was laid off for a total of 2.5 months, and when I returned to work, I brought the key with me. Sure enough, it unlocked the suggestion box. I still have no clue how this was possible, or what the significance of that incident was. The park was a good 20 minutes away from both my home and workplace, in a totally different direction, and that was the first time I'd ever been to that park. Case file number 2027, written by Fabulous Rich 8974. Copy-paste, look-alike taste. Today I said hi to my neighbor. She was wearing a pink and white top with white shorts and a baseball cap. Normally I wouldn't remember details like this, but hours later, I saw a different woman who looked similar to her in a different area while wearing the exact same outfit. Not similar, exactly the same, down to the shoes. She had the same hair color, same body type, same height. 100% was not my neighbor. Again, normally I wouldn't think twice if it didn't happen again on the same day. I went to the mall and a girl was crossing in front of my car. She was wearing high-waisted acid-wash denim shorts and a black tank top. Brown hair, tan skin, thin. Hours later, in a different neighborhood, I saw another girl with brown hair, same length, tan skin. Thin, like exact same body type, wearing the exact same outfit. Again, not a similar outfit, it was the exact same outfit. Again, not the same girl, but could have been her doppelganger. Matching outfits can be common. I went to the store once and saw someone with the same shirt as me, but this was weird and made me go, All 4 of these pairs of women were almost identical to each other in terms of body features, wearing identical outfits miles apart, hours apart on the same day. I just found it odd, and when I saw the last woman, it made me say, déjà vu. Case file number 2028, Imagelicious, JK. Mischief at the sink, Domovoy's wink. In Russian folklore, there is such a thing as Domovoy, loosely translated as home-dwelling spirit. They are invisible and sometimes mischievous. Years ago, when I was at university, I took off a ring and put it on the sink edge to wash my hands. Forgot to put it back on. A few hours later, I went back to the bathroom and the ring was gone. It was a cheap ring, nothing special, but it was given to me by my grandparents, so it was very dear to me. I spent hours looking for my ring. My roommate spent hours helping me. We looked even in the cracks of the baseboards in the bathroom. Nothing. I was really upset. Finally, out of desperation, I asked Domovoy to give it back. I honestly do not believe in the supernatural, but these Domovoys are a common reference in everyday Russian culture. There are even cartoons about them. Well, the next time I went into the bathroom, the ring was back exactly where I left it earlier in the day. I still don't really believe in Domovoy, but apparently he returned the ring to me after I asked. Case file number 2029, written by Lynn's Crossing. Darkness and doubt, figure without. This happened a couple years ago. My boyfriend at the time and I were celebrating our first anniversary. We decided to go stargazing, and living in a small southern town, we found some fields surrounded by heavy woods to try to get the best view and most privacy. The road to the fields was just gravel and dirt and pitch black. We swore we saw taillights way down the road not long after getting on, but figured it was some other high schoolers doing stupid stuff. When we got to the field we were going to stop in, he turned off his headlights, thinking we'd find the other kids, because odds would be we knew them, to mess with them. While driving through this field and looking through the open window, I saw a figure in the grass, and it just gave me the most uneasy feeling looking at it. It almost looked like a person crouching down in the grass, hiding or something. I asked if he saw it too, and he said yes. He assumed it was whoever the taillights belonged to and swung back around, so that the truck was facing it. We could both see it, not even 10 feet in front of the truck, but it hadn't moved at all. He turned his headlights on, planning to scare the crap out of some poor kid, but there was nothing there. There weren't any trees or bushes there either to explain the shape we had seen. He turned his headlights back off again, and it was still gone. To this day, I have no clue what exactly we saw, but a ghost is the only thing that makes sense to me. We did not end up stargazing that night, and instead hightailed it back to my house. Case file number 2030, written by OKScreen127. a bite out of sight, all in one night. My husband made pizza rolls for our kids. I got them out of the oven and on plates. Each plate had 10 pizza rolls, and walked over to set my daughter's, who is 6 years old, plate on the table. She's autistic, mostly only relevant because of her reaction, and was excitedly jumping up and down by the table. And I happened to stumble and 2 pizza rolls fell off the plate, falling towards her, so she reached out to catch them. Before our eyes, they just vanished right before she caught them. Totally gone, not even in a blink. Eyes were wide open and they just disappeared like a magic trick. I thought maybe they didn't actually fall off and we both just panicked and thought they did. But there were only 8 on the plate now, so clearly they did. We stared at each other for a moment and she said, What? I was speechless for a moment, then was like, okay, they couldn't have just disappeared. So we looked under the table, all over the room. Finally, I call my dogs in like, screw it, even if they eat them, I just want them found. Nothing, even the dogs couldn't find them. And they would 100% find them if they were there. And they're not even sniffing around like food had recently been there. They are just gone. And my daughter is so pissed. Enough that I made her a couple more, like, what the hell? I've never experienced something like that, at least not literally in front of my eyes. In fact, my daughter saw it too. She's literally still moving everything in the room 20 minutes later because, well, how was that possible? Case file number 2031, written by Amber's a Vampire. Necklaces, Night Terrors, and Nevada. Once, I was in 7th or 8th grade, and me and 2 other girls were ambassadors to help the 6th graders transition smoothly. We were at one of the girls' houses making macaroni necklaces. No one was home, it was literally just us 3 girls. We had the front screen door open, but locked. The 3 of us were sitting on the floor in the living room, and it was clear as day when someone said my name. I froze. The other 2 girls froze. One of them looked at me and said, "Who said that?" We all freaked out. There was no one home, and we even looked out the front and there was no one walking down the street. It was so weird. Another incident. My parents and I had moved into a new apartment, and in the process had gotten rid of a lot of stuff, and also bought a lot of new stuff. A couple years before we moved, my mom had bought these glasses from the dollar store. They had fruits on them, with the name written under it. She bought 4, my dad broke 3. When we moved, my mom got rid of all of her glasses and plates. She wanted new matching stuff and figured it was less to pack. We'd been in our new apartment for a few years, and we decided to change the cupboards around. While taking out all the cups and plates, we found that one fruit glass. No one knows how it got there, and no one had seen it in all the years since we had moved. It was so strange. This last one is way creepier and a whole lot less explainable. When I was in high school, I had a boyfriend that moved to Tonopah, Nevada. Long story. So that summer, my dad and I took a road trip and headed out to go visit him. Fun fact about my dad and me, we love ghost stories and paranormal crap. So on our little road trip through Death Valley, we decided to have a full father-daughter adventure. So we mapped out a route and stopped at some awesome places, haunted and not. We stopped at America's biggest fireworks store, the Armagosa Opera House, where we met a lot of cool people and wild horses. We stopped at the Goldfield Hotel, one of the most haunted places in America, and a couple of cemeteries to pay our respects and look at the old-style headstones and craftsmanship. Everything was so fun, memories of a father-daughter road trip I hold dear. Okay, here's where things get weird. After we came home, I started to feel really uncomfortable in our apartment. Specifically at night and only in our 3rd loft room. I didn't mention it to my parents. My mom because she doesn't believe in glitches or anything paranormal, and my dad because honestly I thought I was just being silly. It was a spare bedroom full of junk, and one that we never went into. It's been a couple months, and it's late one night, and I'm home with my mom. We're getting ready to go to bed, and she mentions that she's glad I'm with her. She says she's been leaving the light on all night. My dad works 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I thought she had been leaving it on for my dad. Turns out, it wasn't that. She tells me that the room has been giving her the creeps, and she doesn't want to be alone in the dark near the room. Weird. So the next day I mention it in front of my dad, and he says, "Oh crap, me too." So now we're all freaking out. It stayed that way for a couple months. Lights on all night, no one alone in the dark, all that. My dad and I decided to go on another road trip over Christmas break back to Tonopah to visit my boyfriend. As we're walking out the door, my mom says, "Take him back with you." So my dad and I are joking around, start naming off all the places we'd been to the first time, and then we left. My mom called us the next night. You could hear the happiness in her voice. She told us that she couldn't feel the intense fear anymore, that she even turned off all the lights the night before. When my dad and I got home, we couldn't feel the heavy presence anymore either. Case file number 2032, written by Anonymous. Mirror marks, father-son Quarks. I have an 11-year-old son, and very often, not always, but in many instances, a minor physical injury or ailment will manifest in both of us at the same time. For example, on Thursday, he was at an evening event and fell hard while chasing a hayride. I was at home and tripped and fell into the coffee table. When I picked him up a bit later, he was eager to show me his bruised and swollen left knee and his scraped right elbow. I had the same bruises and scrapes in the same places. This happens all the time. A couple weeks ago, I burned my thumb on a hot glue gun, resulting in a blister. A few days later, he showed me a blister on his thumb. Pulled muscles, bug bites, canker sores, stubbed toes, all minor, random incidents with visible identical manifestations, or comparable evidence, have been consistent for as long as I can remember. It would make sense if the event causing the mark happened in each other's presence, or maybe one of us subconsciously imitated the other, or if it was environmental like allergies or a sunburn, or something contagious like a cold or fever, or a hereditary symptom, well, other than clumsiness. These examples do not fall into a pattern like that. Case file number 2033, written by EasyGoer89. Lost on the road, found in the Abode. Had my wedding ring fall off my finger while I had my hand dangling out of a car window while driving. Very upsetting to arrive at the hotel I was staying at to realize it had slipped off. Wasn't in my pockets or in the car anywhere. Checked the floorboards, under the seats, console. I even checked the trunk, and figured it was probably laying on the side of the road somewhere along a 60-mile stretch of interstate. But I was exhausted. It had been a very stressful day of travel. I checked into my hotel room, pushed my suitcase just inside the door of my room, and passed out on the nearest bed. Didn't even stop in the bathroom to pee or bother to get undressed or take off my shoes. Just laid down on top of the hotel bed, went straight to sleep. Woke up the next morning and sat up looking at my ring finger, now minus a wedding band. I saw a glint of light on the desk by the window on the far side of the room. I'd been so tired the night before, I hadn't even closed the curtains, so the sunlight was pouring in. I got up and walked over to the desk to see what it was. It was my wedding ring, sitting by itself on the desktop. I must have stared at it for a solid minute, trying to work out how it got there. I didn't have it when I came into the room, and I, up until that minute, hadn't even been on that side of the room. Still can't explain how it got there. Case file number 2034, written by Books 3597. Easter treats in August heat. As a kid, sometimes, usually when I was really upset once I had gotten bad news, though I can't remember what now. Either way, I was so upset and had been crying for over an hour and was home alone. I walked into the kitchen to get some water, and there in the middle of the table was one of my favorite candies. Notably, it's only sold at Easter, and this was like August. It had gotten to well over 100 that summer, so if it had been sitting out, it would have been melted. It wasn't there before because it was perfectly unmelted, so it hadn't even been there long. I ate the mystery candy and felt a bit better. Before that, I was left home alone overnight, for the very first time. And my phone had died, but my charger had broke. Mom had said we would go to the store and get another one for me after she got off work. But I was scared and I wanted to call my mom. I only lived with her, no siblings or anything, and started crying and left my room for a bit. Came back a while later, and there on my bed was a brand new phone charger, still in new packaging. Though notably not in the packaging it normally comes in, just a clear plastic container with it in it. I know damn well it wasn't there before, but there it was. I charged my phone and called my mom, and she was fine. I just explained to myself that we had a ghost in our house, and the ghost was nice. I think it was a lady who owned the house and had grown up there as a kid. Her dad had built it for her and her twin sister, and it was after she died that this stuff started happening. And she was always a super sweet lady the few times I met her, so that's the best explanation I have. A kind old lady ghost. With candy. Case file number 2035, written by Just Here to Save Stuff. Chemo Cat's Tip Trick, a month-long slick. Our cat has fairly treatable cancer, and we have to give him a chemo pill every couple of weeks. It's a whole thing, can't touch without gloves. We have a pill shooter, we used to give him pills that have a silicone tip. This time, we just gotten back from a trip overseas and were kind of tired, and didn't notice the pill tip was a little askew. The shooter caught the tip, and the whole thing disappeared down his throat. This happened one other time a while back, and he promptly threw it up, so we stood by. Nothing happened. We were getting really worried. I suggested we start driving towards the emergency vet that's about 15 minutes from our house. He normally gets sick in the car, so it might take care of the problem. He didn't though, so we took him into the vet. Eventually, the vet suggested we had an endoscopy done. We left after 1 a.m., and they called to let us know he was ready for pickup at 5:30 a.m. We went to get him, and the vet came out with a baggie with what they recovered. There were little bits of a rubber band he'd eaten at some point, but no sign of the pill shooter tip. We paid $5,000 for the procedure and left. I'm incredibly grateful we could afford it. Over the next week, my husband put on gloves and went through our cat's excrement, looking for some sign of the pill shooter. We watched him for any signs of distress or blockage. As the time passed, we crawled around on the kitchen floor, thinking we must have just missed that he didn't swallow it. 1 month to the day later, I was in the kitchen, and I nearly stepped on something on the floor in front of our kitchen drawers. It was a silicone tip. There was no way it was anywhere near this spot before. It's the main place we stand in the kitchen when we're cooking, and we searched all around the baseboards in that area. The pill is still missing. Case file number 2036, written by Zone Call. Starlit Stroll and a Dreadful Toll. This isn't about what I saw in the forest that night, but rather what my dog saw, or if you wish, what saw us. I was out walking my dog in the forest late at night. This is not unusual or freaky. It's something I do a lot and enjoy. It's tranquil, soothing, and just my dog and me. I'm not scared of the dark, the forest, and I have my dog with me. There are no dangerous wild animals where I live, and no bigger animals at all. I also do not scare easily. It was a cold day in October, and you could see the stars well, and the moonlight was strong enough to light my path. I have a light, but I didn't need to use it. As I'm just walking, minding my business, happy and enjoying myself, there is a sensation like if someone had cracked an egg filled with ice-cold water on my head. That's the best way I can describe it. The cold runs down from the top of my head, down my whole body to my toes, and I am instantly terrified. I get goosebumps all over, and I just know without any doubt in my mind that I'm in mortal danger. At the same time this feeling rushes over me, my dog, who is walking in front of me, has stiffened and turned towards the forest. His tail goes low, his head and ears go low, and his mane rises like an upset cat. I have never seen him do this before or since. Instead of his normal startled bark or the way he'd bark at a wild animal, He emits a low growl and stares intently at a space between some of the trees. I look at the same direction as him and I hear a voice in my head clear as day say, "Don't look at it, because then it will know you are aware it's there." I've heard my crisis situation voice before, and it's always weird, having your brain speak to you like it's a different entity. But I did not need it to tell me for a second time. I turn around and look for the quickest exit. My dog's inner crisis voice had not given him the same message because he is fixed on the spot and refuses to move. I managed to yank him while he's still growling deeply, like I've never heard before. And I found a shortcut out of the forest. As soon as I pick up my speed and get my dog going, the wind picks up and it is warm, and it carries with it a smell of fermented apples and rotten leaves. I hightail it out of there, running like I've never run before. As soon as we get out of the forest, my lungs basically give up. I have asthma, and running in dry air is not possible. I know that I'm safe out of the forest though. But before I can get any ideas, the voice in my head once again states, "Keep moving and don't look back." Fighting the instinct to look back, I managed to drag myself and my poor dog away. When I get home, I lock the door, light every lamp in the house. I don't turn them off until morning. I don't sleep either. I have no clue if it was just something in my brain that went, "Let's become scared now," and my dog picked up on it. But still, to this day, it terrified me. I always get goosebumps when I tell this story, and I have them again just now writing this out. Also extremely understandable. If your brain separates as its own entity and tells you to run, run. Case file number 2037, written by Stumbled Flicked. Magic and Mirth, Train's Rebirth. When my son was just around a year and a half old, he loved everything about Thomas the Tank Engine, and we had a massive train collection for him. We had been looking for one particular train for a long time, and it was always sold out. Can't remember the name, but it was some red dude with weird eyebrows. We finally found it and got it home. At the time, we lived in a little apartment and had almost all of our stuff in storage. So in the living room was literally one of those IKEA Powang chairs with a footrest, a tiny side table, and a recliner. That was all. My son was toddling around with the train in his hand and walked to the footrest and sat down. He looked up at me and then reached back down for it, and it was gone. Took the cover off the chair and footrest, took the recliner back off, picked it all up and moved it. Gone. I even checked his diaper, thinking maybe he somehow got it in there. My son just sat calmly, watching us search, and I joked that maybe he blinked it out of existence. We didn't see that train again for like 2 weeks, and then one day he said, "Train!" and runs over, and it is exactly where he originally put it on that footrest. Case file number 2038, written by Another Pint. Transdimensional Twinkle, Elves in a Wrinkle. So yes, this is about transdimensional elves. For years, mostly small household objects, some of which vanish before our eyes or tumble through the air and disappear. They might be returned if we ask nicely, they might not. A reindeer-shaped Christmas brooch disappeared as my wife was taking it off in our bedroom. 6 months later, I opened the trunk of the car on a Home Depot parking lot, and there it was in the exact center of the carpet. I had a loose E key on my laptop finally break free, tumble into the folds of my shirt, and disappear, never recovered. On a different car, the cigarette lighter and power port plug vanished. This happened when my wife pulled it out of the socket and bobbled it in her hand. Took the car apart looking for it, no dice, and bought a replacement from Amazon. A year later we're camping and my wife sticks her hand in the passenger door storage cubby. There's the original, back from wherever. I had a handcrafted wooden pen my wife gave me when we were dating. Used it to sign everything important, marriage certification, mortgage stuff, etc. One night it disappeared at the kitchen table as I was paying my bills and writing checks. This was a while ago. About 18 months later, I was in the walk-in closet and watched it slide out of the sleeves of my bathrobe. Right now, we're awaiting the return of a couple of little inch-long foam doohinkies used in sewing, missing in action from the living room sofa a couple weeks ago. The Elves like small items, nothing essential. We've never lost a passport or credit card this way, but usually with some personal energy of ours attached. What the hell about the car power port plug, though? It's interesting living with the issue. No harm is met, we're sure. It's just next universe mischief. Indeed. Don't know if they're elves, but they are mischievous. Now time for the dad jokes of the day. A joke my son told me. Why is 9 afraid of 3? Because he was squared of him. Joke number 2. My daughter saw that I only had ham and turkey on my Thanksgiving plate. Which one do you like more? She asked me. I'm not sure. Usually I don't pick sides. Joke number 3. What did the dad reply to the mom, who said, I've had enough, I'm selling my kid on eBay. Don't be silly, you made him, so put him up on Etsy. Joke number 4. My son was scared to tell me he failed his history exam. I said, don't worry, it's all in the past. Last joke. I just came across my husband's Tinder profile, and I'm so angry about his lies. He is not fun to be around. As you must have noticed, the video you're watching is abnormally long for a standard weekly upload. So there's some changes happening in the new year, and I want to explain them all. So first off, I'm going to be releasing, instead of 5 small videos, 2 long videos. And to do that, I'll have to double the amount of stories that I'm going to read on the channel. So if you're here just for the stories, you're going to be very happy. One note though about that, I am going to be phasing out the case notes. There's several reasons. The first reason is, frankly, I think I've said everything I feel like I need to say. And I don't want to force myself to rehash or repeat myself, because a lot of these stories, they have similar themes, and the reason why it happened, the explanation, in my view, they tend to blend together. There's distinct categories for each glitch. We have all kinds of glitches, quantum immortality and DOP and so on and so forth. Maybe sometimes, if there's something very unique about a story, I'll still give a few thoughts right after reading it. But I don't want to force myself to sit there and try to think up of things that it doesn't feel natural anymore. I've done this for 2,000 stories. I think at this point, my thoughts are solidified into history. And again, if there's something very unique about a story, I might still make a note about it and talk about it. Real quick, in a nutshell, the amount of stories I'm going to be reading is going to be doubled, so that's going to be a lot of work, but I think it's going to be worth it. The case notes will be phased out. However, one other note, pun not intended, is the dad jokes are going to remain. And in fact, every video now is going to have 5 dad jokes at the end of it, because those are just fun and I never get tired of those. I was doing quotes of the day before for a good while, and just like the case notes, I felt like all these quotes, they're good, but they kind of have similar themes, and I don't want to repeat myself all the time. That doesn't feel natural. So, the dad jokes, those are endless. There's infinite variations from what I've seen so far. They never feel forced or repetitive. They're just all over the place, and they're so much fun. So yeah, those will continue. And the last reason is, of course, I have to try to focus on new ways to grow the channel, because I'm at a fine base, but I want to grow. I want to expand. It's that adage of, if you're not growing, you're shrinking or falling behind or something like that. And I think in reality, that's true. So I think this is a good step, and we'll test it out, see what happens. But yeah, more stories. Hopefully you find this exciting as I do. Okay, so that's about it. To infinity and beyond.